I'm sitting here with Eric. Eric, you're a psychologist. You work in the long-term healthcare. You've traveled. Here we are in Bermuda, and we've been spending the last 4 days doing a variety of different things. And today we did an exercise on saying your eulogy. And what do you think came out of the group today?
You know, I found it incredible that, first of all, I'm amazed at how eloquent people were, and that, you know, people that I thought were just not regular, but just ordinary kind of people came up with such profoundly beautiful statements about their lives. And I was struck by something very interesting, that there, not one person that read their eulogy out loud talked about the things that they had bought, or that they had, you know, houses they had or what kind of cars they drove, or the money they had amassed. Every single person talked about the other lives they had touched.
And so what we spoke about this morning was the power of relationships. And we have our corporate relationships, we have our professional relationships, we have the relationships with staff. But at the end of the day, as leaders, we always focus on leading others. But when we come home, we take off our leadership hat and we put on our family hat, but yet we are still leaders.
Not my house. I'm never the leader in my house, and it's not even with my children. And my cat bosses me around because it's, you know, and I have a very large organization with hundreds of people, and I come home and my position is very different. I'm much more humble. I'm in a much more subsidiary role rather than just being the one that makes all the decisions.
But yet, at work, you have created a culture. And how different the culture at work is. Have you ever thought of your home as a culture?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point. I think every house has this different culture, and I think in the same ways that, you know, one culture is different in the United States, different from Japan or somewhere else. Every home is different and has a different culture, and that's why sometimes people say, "This is the way you should have a house," or "That's the way." But I think it's like cultures, you can't really judge what's good or bad in a house. So, yes, we do have a culture.
But recognizing the fact that we have a culture, then that also means we are forced to build communication. And in this morning session, we spoke quite at length about the importance of communication.
That's right.
So, do you want to share anything that you felt that is relevant to the group on that communication?
In what way? What do you mean?
Well, again, sort of, we were communicating. How do we problem solve? What about quality of life? How do we balance work life?
Right. Well, you know, it's very interesting because I found that there were some couples who communicated a lot, and they talked about work together, and at home they would share what happened each day. And other couples that said home is just a safe place where we don't talk about work at all. And so there's different ways to communicate, and I don't think either one of them is good or bad. I think they both, whatever works for that couple and that family, I think is good.
And so the exercise that I had the group do, I asked the group to write the eulogy. And then I asked certain couples to actually write what they, not just their own eulogy, but what they will actually say of their spouse. So we had the first person read their eulogy, and then we had the spouse come back and read the eulogy of what they think should be said. And it was interesting to see when Darlene and I did the exercise, I learned so much about Darlene, or I learned so much about myself. And again, it is about how do we continue to strengthen our relationships.
Right.
Do you feel that sort of people are going to look at relationships a little differently today?
I do. It was a great exercise because people in this room were not, you know, suddenly they were opening up in a way that I've not seen people open up very much in a seminar, and they were talking about themselves in such an open and deep and profound way. It was beautiful to see it. Some people came to tears, and some people were laughing, but it was just a really very, very powerful exercise to make people be open and expose themselves to an entire room of people. It was pretty powerful.
Yes, and I think there will be some stronger friendships that will also be coming because we now know so much more about each other.
Yeah, I agree.
So what are some of the other highlights that have been this week for you?
Well, it was an interesting mix. That, you know, on one hand, it was fascinating to hear a story of an individual and of a couple who has such an interesting life and so different from most people that work 9 to 5. And as an example of how we can incorporate that into our lives. And then the following days were about exactly that. How do you take your life, and incorporate the kind of adventure that you and your wife have in your life. It was a very powerful 4 days so far.
So, what in your experience, are there going to be things that you'll start to do differently? Are you going to look at things differently? Are there action steps you will take when you leave Bermuda?
Well, it made me think that there's, I'm stuck at a rut at my age. I'm 61 years old, and my life has been fairly static, but it's never the wrong time to kind of really redevelop a sense of adventure about your life and to work towards that. You should never stop doing that. You should always look for that. So that was very inspiring.
We are dreamers, we are adventurers, and everywhere we go and every day is an opportunity to impact lives, to meet new people, and to continue those adventures. Eric, thank you so much for being here in Bermuda.
Thank you for everything. Thank you.